And then we'll just honor Trustee McCarthy when she shows up. So let's call the meeting together to order. Roll call vote, please.
Lee Delpan.
Oh.
Patty Garbarino. Cindy Johansson.
Here.
Nancy McCarthy. Marilyn Nemser.
Here.
Curtis Robinson.
Present.
And Jill Sartori.
Here.
Okay, all right, so we have a quorum, so let's go to item 1.03, that's approval and adoption of the agenda. Is there a motion?
I move.
Okay, there's a motion, is there a second?
Second it.
Okay, we have 2 motions and 2 seconds, we take all of it. All those in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, the agenda passes. Now let's have public comment on items not on the agenda. Is there anyone in the public that would like to comment on items not on the agenda? Seeing none, let's move on to the consent agenda. Do we have a motion for approval of the consent agenda?
I move.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay,
About the minutes,
okay,
is that part of this?
that's part right now, you're right on.
Just on the special meeting, does it need to specify if it was unanimous or not when we have a vote on a expulsion? I thought we needed to say if it wasn't unanimous or what the votes were.
We should have all votes listed, yes.
So it just doesn't say that, that's not on
Okay,
the minutes for them, it's there was the special meeting on the 8th.
yes. Okay, so if those are not indicated, we can, with that amendment, we can do
Just
that.
I did clarify.
Thank you.
Thanks, Marilyn. All right, so with that amendment, do we have the entire consent agenda ready to be approved? All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, the agenda and the consent agenda with the minutes approved as amended. And now let's look at item number 4.0, that's Superintendent of Schools reports.
Thank you, President Robinson. I'll be doing the report in John's absence today, and I just have 4 items that I wanted to bring to the board's attention. And interestingly, they all have to directly do related to this board. So the first is I just want to give you an update on the retreat on July 14th. I'm happy to report that all 7 members have connected with the facilitator and have completed the survey, which is the first step. And you remember in this retreat is to focus on board evaluation and goal setting. So the last step in this is the one-to-one conversations with the facilitator, and 4 of those have been scheduled. I'll follow up with the other 3 members to make sure that those get scheduled. And just be on the lookout for the facilitator. We'll be sending some retreat materials very soon that they're going to want you to review in advance of the July 14th meeting. We'll try to give you as much time as we can to engage in with those materials. The second thing I want to bring to your attention, a preview of coming attractions, is that at the September meeting, you're going to be doing a first read of the last appellate review bylaw, which is the expulsion appeal. So that I'm happy to report that that was last reviewed in 2010. So it's not as old as some of the other things, but we really haven't cracked the seal on that yet. So we'll be doing that shortly and then bring that to you for first read the September meeting. So be on the lookout for that. And I think I mentioned it before, but this is the last of the bylaws. So that'll put the bow on that package. So good job to the board for getting through all of those. And then also want to bring to your attention, there's 2 new requirements for board members related to professional development that will be starting as early as July 1st of this school year. The first is there's now a legal requirement that the board participate in training related to the adoption of the annual budget. And so right now, the legislation says that FCMAC will be developing that curriculum and they'll have it available by October 1st. And then the board will have, if you're a sitting board member, you have until April. If you're sitting as of April of 27, you have till April of 28 to complete that training. We anticipate that we're going to make this available to the board in person. We haven't obviously seen all of the training material, but we feel like a subject like this is better done in person. So and we'll have some time to look at that. So more to come on that. But the other change is the California Penal Code has changed to expand the definition of a mandated reporter for suspected child abuse, and it now includes board members. So board members effective July 1st will need to participate in the mandated reporting training, and that's to identify and report suspected child abuse. That training will be done online, and so we'll give you a link to that, and that will be an annual requirement for the board moving forward. And then lastly, and this is hot off the press, today the Marin County Office of Education did receive a request for an interdistrict transfer appeal. We have vetted that with the family and the district. They have exhausted all of their appeal rights, and so it will be coming to this board. You'll remember that this room is actually going offline on July 1st. So we're hoping that we can maybe have this meeting next week. So we're going to be connecting with you and your availability after the meeting to see if we might be able to get that calendar as soon as possible. So that's everything I have for updates for my report.
Okay, thank you, Dean Superintendent. And let the record reflect that Trustee McCarthy just arrived. Welcome, Trustee McCarthy. And now we're looking at item 4.02, and that's presentation of 26-27 County Superintendent of Schools Local Control and Accountability Plan Summary of Support to School Districts. Go on.
Thank you. All right, so Bree and I are gonna tag team this a little bit. Part of the change that came with the requirement that districts complete LCAPs required that superintendents also file information on the summary of supports that they provide to districts. And one of the things that we've said a lot across time is that there are two things really, if you were to boil down, and separate and different from the student programs that we have, special ed and alt ed. There are things that we get to do and things that we must do. So we're going to go over a little bit. This report really kind of covers those two categories. What you have in front of you is the required template. I'm going to take you through something that's a little bit user friendly to look at, but largely they read the same way. And at the end of that also includes a budget that accompanies the document. This document that you have is submitted with our LCAP to the state of California when they review our plan, just like we review the district plans. This goes with it. So first we're going to start with level 1 support, and this is really universal support for everyone. So again, the work we get to do. The next couple of slides are really examples of level 1 support. This is not an exhaustive list. This is a sampling of the work that we get to do. Specifically on this page, these are the networks that we have. These cover almost every department of our office: Ed Services, HSS Business, alt ed, M&O, all the networks that we do. And the intent of a network is really, as you know, our county is unique in many ways. We have districts of varying sizes with people who wear a lot of different hats. So what these networks do is they act to shrink the county and allow districts to lean into each other and learn from each other and grow with each other and help each other. By the way, this report is intended to be a discussion. So if you have questions along the way, go ahead and stop. So the next level 1 support that we get to do is what we would call other support. So this goes into, it has LCAP review and support there, but really we're required to review it, but we're also required, aren't required to provide support. We can literally just provide them with the directions and say, way you go. So there are things that are supportive that sort of cross that line between must and haves. And again, this is not an exhaustive list, but it is an important list of all the things that we get to do for and with our districts. This last one is professional development, and I think this probably takes up a huge amount of everybody's time and support to districts, really providing districts and trying to stay not flat-footed on things that they need. So you'll see a variety of things in there, from accountability to trustee series, SARB, FRISC, HR functions, early childhood, all over the map. But the professional development that we provide is quite robust and pretty rich. And again, we try to remain not flat-footed and ahead of what people need in addition to what they actually have. So that takes us to level 2 support. So this is the technical support and assistance. This is the work we are required to do. So if all of that were to go away, this is the work that the state of California really requires and mandates that we do. So again, here's the list. On behalf of the county superintendent, on behalf of the superintendent of schools, AB 1200 oversight, LCAP, Differentiated and targeted assistance, that's the support that we provide to districts that find themselves in the red on the dashboard, where we get to go in and work with them very closely on helping them do what they already know how to do, but really giving them more arms and legs to do so. And then also our Williams reviews. So the superintendent support summary really is something that we must do each year. And it really outlines and summarizes the support that we provide to school. We are required to approve the district's LCAPs, offer technical support and feedback, deliver training sessions, and finalize and review all of the approval of all the districts by August 15th. We also conduct a cycle of improvement and technical assistance. So this gets into the differentiated assistance that we do, where ed services, and to a certain extent, there's some early childhood as well as some business, really look at helping the districts understand and see what is going on within their system so that they can better support students. And then looking at how do we help them implement their LCAP, which is a bit of a lofty goal, but that largely looks like a lot of professional development, collaboration, and networking. And then assistance in the monitoring of any action plans that they want us to provide support to and with. And the summary of this report is really that it outlines everything that we get to do for our districts and then present it to you all for discussion or questions. And this is just sort of a one pager of what I just said. And that's it.
Great, thank you so much. Anything from Brody,
budget.
or are we ready for questions? You should,
Happy to answer questions, wherever, you know.
okay, let's have questions from the board. Yes,
So I'm just curious with the LCAPs, the district LCAP
Mhm.
review. So you've been doing this for a while. Was there anything meaningfully different this as in terms of your review? You started to see new trends, new areas that our districts are thinking about?
I think that the trend that I've seen mostly is it would be a continued trend and more emphasis on social emotional. I think that the academics is the mainstay, but we learned an awful lot from the pandemic that if your child isn't in a good space to learning, then they're not going to learn, regardless of what standards are in front of you. And so the districts really have done a really nice job, as well as our own LCAP to that end, kind of fleshing out more of those services that are needed, looking more closely at the services that kids need. The differentiated assistance work that we do, most of it is tied to behavior, social, emotional, kids not getting to school for a lot of different reasons. And so it's very important to districts, which is really nice to see.
Great, thanks.
wonderful. Marilyn has a question. Nimser,
Thank you. I'm kind of blown away by
go on.
the amount of work this represents for county staff. Just reviewing the LCAPs alone, like I just took that out of everything. It must take hours and hours. So do we have extra staff support for this? And second question is, does the state give us any extra money for these things that it wants us to do?
So we do not get any additional money for LCAP per se, and so that's one. I would say that the staff support that's provided for the review of LCAP is an amazing combination of business and ed services. So it's a really great opportunity for the two departments really to work very closely together. So there's that, and it does take a good amount of time. So we pretty much dedicate, I would say, probably a full 4 hours per LCAP from beginning read to final letter, which is what needs to go back to a district to determine whether it has met approval or not. Differentiated assistance is something that the state does recognize as being something that is heavily laden in hours, and they do provide additional support for that. And that's largely what is noted in that particular budget, is that last page. Those dollars are really those that reflect the amount of time and energy that need to go into the differentiated assistance, which far exceeds 4 hours. It could be anywhere from 40 hours to to 60 hours. It just kind of depends on how deep the district wants to go.
Okay,
I have a second question.
Okay. Okay, let's have somebody else. There was other questions on.
I had a question.
Trustee
Do
McCarthy.
you allocate, or do you know what the amount of funds are that go from the MCOE into each one of these individual evaluations or programs?
We don't have any funds that go into individual programs. It would be staff time that is dedicated to working with districts. So we don't distribute money. The money that comes in provides us the means to investigate and help them go through the process.
And do you have any allocation percentage wise in terms of what staff time is spent on each individual program that you're working on, what you're doing for the districts?
No. Actually, no, not in all that you mean on the level one is all those back here? These back here?
Yes.
Okay, I would say overall, yes, that's how we trade staffing within the departments to accommodate all the job duties.
I'm gonna answer a broad kind of business question too, so business was mentioned as AB 1200, which is kind of just one ticker on this list.
Oh.
AB 1200 does 4 different reviews of district budgets every single year, so where we do the LCAP once a year, there's 4 different interims. There's budget, there's first interim, there's second interim, and there's unaudited actuals. That the AB 1200 team reviews each and every single budget of every district at that time period. So think about that, just compounding that time and that staff time, and the AB 1200 team does that. And in between there, the purpose of the AB 1200 team, which is one of the county office's primary roles, is AB 1200 district fiscal oversight. The purpose of that team is to support districts. And so in between there, like mentioned here, that looks like every single Wednesday we offer something. So it might be a workshop, it might be just office hours where people can come and sit, and it might be what we call our DBO meeting, which is a monthly meeting where all of the CBOs of the county get together and we give them updates and we give them information, and it's time to collaborate. So there's like Laura said, these are just words on a page, but there's so much more behind them. As well as, for instance, the frontline implementation, it's one line. My staff has put in over 2,000 training hours this year of the implementation, helping districts move financial systems. So if you think about that, that's a lot, so it might vary. And I'm just saying it varies from year to year. It varies on what the county projects are and priorities are. So, that's not every single year. That's because we have an implementation this year, where it started a year before, it'll end a year after, but hopefully it will peter out soon, and be less time. So it just varies, but all of our supports go toward that district support, and that's where it's focused. And usually that's in the form of staff and providing those individual supports to those.
Along those same lines, does it vary based on the size of the school district in terms of the support?
100%. So just using it depends on what the project is.
Yeah.
So, it might be that everyone needs LCAP, and usually that LCAP team is a certain number of people at each district. And so that might look this similar, not perfectly the same, but it might look similar for a district. Like when it comes to frontline, at a smaller district, I might have only 2 what I would call core users that we're giving that individual instruction to. And then I've got a San Rafael that probably has 25 core users. So it really depends on the project or the program and the size of the district and how much we're giving those individual districts.
Right, and so for instance, in LCAP, I get to oversee and help superintend the Laguna district, which is a smaller size district, very small size district. But their LCAP is still 80 pages long, and it still has all the same goals and objectives that San Rafael and Novato have. So it really depends on each item. Foster youth and homeless, it's one line on here, but that's somebody's entire job. So, yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have other questions.
I just have one question. Is it a correct statement to say that one of the reasons why it's hard to quantify in terms of dollar amounts how much to go to each of these projects is because the people who actually work on the project don't get extra salary, it's built in with their salary, is it?
That's why they exist.
Yeah,
They exist to serve the districts.
Yeah.
yeah, and to the extent possible, we build a caseload or we build a job load, if you will, on what we see on that page. So about how many hours each week is homeless and foster youth going to occupy of my staff person Amy Carrera's time? Is she able to take on additional duties as well? So.
Thank you. Okay, and trustee Nemser had another question.
Well, it's just with all these, there's so much. Are these all areas that, the way we help districts is if they want it, do the districts come to you when they're working on their LCAPs and need help with certain parts, or are these sort of just all built into an outreach kind of thing that you do? I don't know if that's.
I guess I would say yes to all of that. I would say yes, districts come to us. Yes, we reach out to them. Building an LCAP is separate and different from this. Districts do come to us because we do have a certain amount of knowledge that we get from being trained by the state, et cetera. So there's a certain amount of compliance that goes into an LCAP that you need to have, and we get to hold that expertise. At all the other things, I would say that list is just so fabulous because everything that we do is based in relationship, and relationship comes from the smallest thing to the greatest thing. So the networks are a prime example, actually, of really districts saying, we really want to work together on this. I mean, they don't have to, but they want to.
I would love a copy of that.
Okay,
So,
you have.
thank you.
Okay, great. All right, this was a discussion item. Any other comments or questions? Okay, let's move on to the next agenda item. That's section number 5. We have an update on the California dashboard.
Okay, that's exciting.
All right.
Okay. All right, so we are gonna have Keith Foster come up here. Sorry. So again, this is another area that's required. The local indicator progression is intended to be a discussion.
Can we just have a minute for this photo?
Yeah,
Yes.
did I go back at that?
Yeah, so this was the last day of school, so after this, we had graduation and everything. It was the opening of the World Cup, Mexico was playing South Africa, so we have everybody in that room except Allie was a Mexico fan. And then we also had a staff potluck. So this is, I'm standing where the TV is, so that's our new building. So it was just such a beautiful day and moment, so I just wanted to share that.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Congrats.
And Mexico won.
There you go. Okay, so today we're gonna do an overview of the state and local indicators briefly. We're gonna talk about the relationship to the state accountability system. And we're gonna talk about where these actually more importantly show up in the LCAP that you guys all have in front of you. We're not gonna do Dashboard 101. I would be more than happy to do Dashboard 101 with you all, but we won't be doing that tonight. We won't be talking too much in detail about the items on the LCAP where you're gonna see, although Katie is here to be able to give you a little bit of a detail on it. And we're also not gonna go too far into the intricacies of the local control funding formula. I know you're all about. So the dashboard is one part of the accountability system. So the LCAPs have a number of commonalities. They all have a story they're trying to tell. They all have goals and actions that exist in them. And all of those goals and actions came about from engagement with the stakeholders, educational partners, excuse me. They all use the same exact metrics and in the plan, and your plan must include at least one time one of the metrics. You can use them 10 times, but you must at least use them one time. So the County Office of Education, unlike a district, has 10 priorities that they need to. And I'm going to use the word priority and metric interchangeably, so I apologize. I don't want to confuse you, but they are essentially the same thing. The County Office of Education has 10. So here's a list of the 10 indicators that exist both at the state level. So they all exist at the state level. I'm sorry, what I'm trying to say is that some of them are populated by the state. So CAS testing. The state provides that information to the dashboard. There are other things on this list that the state doesn't provide to the dashboard. They're provided by our input to the dashboard. So we have an LCAP, we have metrics, they feed the dashboard, and there's your accountability cycle. All right, so that's your really quick dashboard accountability tutorial. So here are the local indicators that we get to comment on today. So we have priority 1, which is basic services, priority 2, which is essentially the state standards, priority 3, parent and family engagement, 6, school climate, and 7, broad course of study. Broad course of study is in the LCAP for the purposes of making sure that all students, not some students, but all students have access to all the great things that schools offer. So that means math, PE, music, etc. What you'll find in a lot of situations is students who are maybe our English learners or students with disabilities, they are frequently pulled out of class because they need to have direct services based upon their need. It's not uncommon. As a speech therapist once, that was when the teachers allowed me to actually take students out, not during math, but you can during whatever. So the broad course of study is really an attempt to make sure that students, to the best of a district's ability, get all the cool things, not just the basics. And then the last 2 are expelled youth and priority 10, which is foster youth. All right. So the first one, priority 1, this is, and again, these are all, we will go into the dashboard and we will update this dashboard for this. It's the only thing we're allowed to touch in the dashboard. Everything else is by the state. So the very first one is basic services. Are our teachers highly qualified? Do our facilities meet the Smith test of being of a fit report? And do we have adequate instructional materials? So all the information about the alternative education program that Marin County Office of Education offers around priority 1 are measured in goal 1. Right.
I feel funny just reading the slide.
I know.
But the implementation of state standards, I could go very deep into detail here, but there's skills and there's knowledge, and the skills cross all of the disciplines, whereas the knowledge is sort of more discipline focused. And you can find that in our goal 1, goal 3, and goal 4. Priority 3 is parent and family engagement. As you know, we dedicate a lot of resources to this. Specifically, we have a classified staff member administrator who is our family empowerment specialist. You can find more information in goal 1, specifically around our community schools work, and goal 2 around all of those various ways in which we engage students and families. School climate, our positive and safe school environment. As you all know, because you've heard a lot over the last couple of years, very big focus for us. You can find that in goal 2. Specifically, goal 2 is very much dedicated to this, and then goal 3, which was our data system and how we track students. Priority 6 is our climate, positive and safe school environment, addressing suspension and expulsion rates. As you saw, our suspension rates went up, but you can find our goals and metrics related to it in goal 2 and goal 3, same as the previous one. And our broad course of study, students have access, because we're a school that deals a lot in credit recovery. We have a lot of students come just behind in credits. We actually have to really focus on the graduation requirements first. But that doesn't mean that we don't offer things that students can take advantage of. We don't do what Laura was talking about, where if you're an ELD, you don't get access to our music program, for example.
And then the last 2 are 9 and 10. So this is primarily the services that we provide for foster youth. Again, we're not a direct service provider for students in foster youth unless they happen to be in the alternative education program or the special education program, but we do provide direct support to districts around that. And then we also have the work, primarily the work with Dr. Miller around the expelled youth plan that we provide on behalf of the county. And that one actually was approved, I think, in 2024, and will be up again in 2027. So if you were to go to our dashboard, the dashboard is a great tool unless you don't have a lot of students that show up on the dashboard. So if you were to go to our dashboard right now, this is what it looks like. So you'll see a lot of grayed out information because there just simply aren't enough students there to yield enough information on it. But if you go to any district, usually with the exception of a few that are quite small, you'll see a lot more information there. But what you'll see in the, which I have a little pointer down there, basic teachers in the middle column on the right-hand corner, you'll see that standard met. So after we complete our input into the dashboard, that's how it shows up. And there is a narrative, so if you were to click into that, you can actually read what was written there. But that's essentially what it looks like from the outside in. That's it. Local indicators.
Wonderful.
I have some questions.
Okay, Trustee McCarthy, you have the first question.
How many foster youth and homeless children are in the districts, and what type of direct support do you provide? You indicated you don't provide direct support, but you provide some other type of support. What is that?
I think our foster youth count has dropped. And when I, pre-COVID, I think it was 85. I'm gonna guess right now it's around 42. And that's largely secondary to the homes that are housing these students are no longer housing them. The homeless population in our schools varies from district to district. I think Nevada and Centerville probably have the largest amount of students that are considered homeless. The homeless definition for students in school is different than the non-schooled homeless definition. There's the McKinney-Vento definition, and then there's a different definition. And I can send you some information on that. We actually had one of our, Amy Carrera came in and did a presentation on it, did a really nice overview of all those definitions. And then the support that we do provide, Amy runs networks. She does a lot of work with districts on helping them with the transportation plan. So students that are in foster care have a certain number of rights to be in the school where they are, gosh, I forget what it's called, but it's basically the school of origin, thank you, the school of origin. And so working with districts to kind of broker that, because if their school, for instance, if their school of origin was Pleasant Valley, but the foster care home is in Sausalito, Marin City, they do indeed have a right to stay in Pleasant Valley, but that's a distance. And if this child is, say, 5, that might make the best interest determination for that child may not necessarily be that they stay in that homeschool. So a lot of the brokering services that she does with them, just sort of to talk it through in combination with the county of Marin.
In combination with the county of Marin, because they're overseeing these foster children?
They have some oversight, yes, in the placement. So the county of Marin as well as other counties that place within Marin.
Wonderful. Any other questions, staff? Yes, go ahead.
Laura, I'm just curious, this is a California school dashboard. Is there any way to look at a roll-up of the whole county of Marin and see how we're performing?
I don't think they have a dashboard for the count by counties that I've seen. Have you seen that? I haven't seen it by county. I've only seen it by district. You can do a county-wide look at CAST scores alone, but I haven't seen a side-by-side of all the indicators.
And do you, in your role, look at our I know that you have the LCAP and have all the conversations. Do you ever look like kind of bird's eye view at our schools in Marin, and do you have a general sense of how we're doing? Is it all over the map? Is it generally faring? I get that when we don't have data, it's hard to see, but for most of the schools, we have enough data.
You mean all districts?
I'm sorry, all districts.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
I would say that we have academically, so I'll just start with that. I would say academically, we're at a plateau with some weird peaks. I equate everything kind of back to the pandemic. I think the third graders, which is when academic testing started, this year, this is the first group that probably was not in school for the pandemic. And so we're kind of hoping to see a movement to a higher level of academics success, but right now it's pretty plateaued.
There's a persistent achievement gap.
Yeah, and that we do, I think we still hold the record for the largest achievement gap in the state.
In the
So,
state.
yeah,
Along with
Marin.
income.
Marin.
Yeah.
Marin
Had it on time.
Interesting.
Yeah, I didn't know this one.
You have the highest income gap and also the highest education.
Yeah, so the gap is the widest.
I don't understand that. You're saying Marin County has.
Yes. We have the highest, the largest, I guess is probably a better way to say it. The gap between our students who need more to get the same and our white Asian students is the largest gap in the state.
And that's been going on for some period. That was Marin Promise and all of, right? Maybe.
I don't know about that, but I know that it's, yeah, I mean, that's the basis for a lot of work. Yeah.
Is there an underlying reason for that?
If I knew, I wish.
Well,
I
it's
wish.
economics. It's
Yeah.
the income, it's the poverty that exists in certain areas. If you look at the kids in Marin City and Sausalito and San Rafael and Novato, they tend to do worse
Mhm.
with their parents' income and also their educational abilities, and that's a shame.
But those
Health and
exist
health
in every
indicators.
county, though, those exist in every county, so why, so the question is like, why?
Because the range of income from the highest top 5% is so much greater than the lowest. I believe that's the answer.
More than LA?
Yes, yeah, because LA is more crunched together.
Yeah, I guess so.
I said that there's also a level of bias that we wouldn't wanna dismiss as being there, so that's something that we work a lot on in this county. It's hoping to break down bias.
Well, does it have anything to do with the large number of immigrant children that have come in that don't even have parents necessarily?
I don't know that I could draw that parallel. And so I would say no.
Okay, I have another question.
Okay, go ahead, Trustee.
You indicated that the suspensions have gone up, and I'm wondering, like, why you track those? Is there anything you can do about those? Is there anything that you as an organization do to communicate with schools about that? And do you find out the reasons why? What is the sort of what surrounds that?
Yeah, I think the suspension increase may have been with Katie, that what we're seeing in the districts is definitely a persistence in suspension. And also kids not coming to school for a lot of reasons. A lot of it is not belonging, et cetera, or not being able to get to school. And 100% of the work that we do with differentiated assistance with districts is looking at suspension. Who is suspended? Why are they suspended? Comparing them to other student groups. Why are they suspended and for that, but not this? So that's like the best, most exciting part of the differentiated assistance is really stopping time and being able to allow people to look at data that they already know is there, but they just don't have the time or the staffing to do that. So that's a huge part of the work.
So you do this analysis
Mhm.
on your own here,
Mhm.
and then you bring that to the districts and you explain that to them and say, this is the way it's happening.
We don't explain it to them, no. What we do is we bring them, we don't need to, they know, they can look at that and these are brilliant educators. They can look at this and go, okay, I can see what we're doing here.
And do those indicate what the reason is for the suspension, such that people are then able to determine what children are being suspended for, and then evaluating that in connection with their decision making?
Yes, what it gets into is after you're looking at a certain amount of data that points in a very specific direction, gives them the chance to now stop time and say, okay, how do we want to let's look at our system. Or if we have one district that has three high schools in it. And that means you have at least three people looking at suspension, possibly three different ways. So that the next step is then looking at how do we set some equilibrium here. You're saying this is harassment, but I'm calling this bullying. What's the difference? Let's actually get some footing here. So that's the next step of the work, is really to get them then to look at their system and have them design what they feel like is the best steps for them, and the best way to define what is suspendable and what's not.
Is there like a top 3 reasons for suspensions that you've come across?
Harassment, bullying, and I would say probably tobacco.
That's the elementary schools.
Yeah, those would be the top. I mean, they're.
Okay, any other questions for the staff before we move on? Wonderful presentation. Digging deep. Thank you so much.
You do have another question.
Okay, wait a second.
I have one question.
One more question from the trustee.
I'd be happy to also meet with you.
Okay,
Yeah.
Sometimes I see programs at certain schools, and I don't know if MCOE has any input over those. There's one called Children for Change that I know is in the San Rafael, one of the San Rafael schools. Does MCOE ever oversee any of the programs that schools put in for social reasons or environmental reasons or whatever? Does MCOE have any control over that at all?
I don't know that I'd really be able to answer this, so I don't know that I could say ever or never. I would say yes, there are programs sometimes that NCOE either sponsors or has something to do with. Children for Change, we do not, but sometimes, sure.
But does anybody, I guess what I'm asking is any of these school districts come in and ask for authorization to add like a program that isn't
No.
academic?
They go to their own boards for that.
That wouldn't be part of our responsibility.
Yeah, sometimes if they want us to work with them, or if they want to open it up to others in the county, they might, but largely we have no oversight over it.
Do you even know when they have those? Is that something reported to you, or do you have any information about it?
No, I read about it in their LCAP,
Oh, that's in their LCAP?
usually, if they're paying for it, usually it's in their LCAP.
All right, thank you. Moving right along, it's interesting whether we're asking questions to the staff or we're having back and forth conversation. So we're doing a little of both here. I don't know what is the right answer here. So, as board president, I'm just observing and commenting that there is a lot of back and forth from one or two trustees, and I don't know, we may have to come to a board discussion on that in the future.
Well, I would just simply say in response to that, how can we get any information if we're getting brand new information for the first time? We can't ask the question, then they get an answer that raises another aspect to it. It's part of the same thing. Seems like we're wasting our time here if we can't get.
No,
that
I'm just
information.
thinking that sometimes asking the right type of question, sitting back and listening, versus the back and forth, it's just different ways to conduct a board meeting, that's all I'm saying.
Well, all I can tell you is that I think that's a mistake to make that kind of a comment. We only have one board meeting a year, a month, and to try to get information that is otherwise not available generally, I think that we should be encouraged to do that. And I certainly disagree with any
Well,
indication that somehow or another it's gotta go back.
Again, we're just trying to find the right balance. That's
So I
what
don't think
we're
what
doing.
you're saying is one question.
Well,
And that's not a
I'm,
good balance.
and
We
I'm
can table
also
this
saying
for the
that-
retreat.
Yeah, we can talk about it on the retreat.
I just
Maybe.
think that's the wrong position.
Well, we can bring it up during. Thank you. And so let's move on. We have action items. Item number 6, award a bid for the Walker Creek project, the painting project. Thank you.
Thank you, board members, for the opportunity to present this recommendation for the award of the bid for a major deferred maintenance project taking place at Walker Creek Ranch. This project will address painting needs for the majority of the exterior painting needs, I should say, for the majority of the Walker Creek Ranch Central Campus, as well as interior paint for a number of our guest lodges. Included in the scope of the work is construction to address a number of issues with dry rot, as well as other deferred maintenance outside of the buildings, doors, frames, and covered walkways. Following last summer's roofing and flooring projects, which you may remember, this work will be the next steps in bringing this important MCOE facility, back up to standard for both our outdoor education and our students and our conference guests. This is really, as we've mentioned before, a big step in the deferred maintenance that we need to do at this facility. So with that, I will introduce John Delana from Greystone West, and he's here to talk a little bit about they're our construction management partner, as you know, and he'll give you an overview of the bid process and the contract with this facility.
Thank you.
Thank you. So today we're looking for approval of the Walker Creek Ranch painting project. I'm looking to award that to a company called Affordable Quality Painting. We did advertise twice in the local newspaper, Marina J, as well as published in the local builders exchange for public contract code. We received 8 bids for this project, with the low bid being from Affordable Quality Painting at $616,500. Our estimated budget for the project was $950,000, so we are within budget. The project is scheduled to start on August 10th and be complete on September 14th. Project consists of exterior painting, some dry rot repair, some interior painting, there's some doors and door frames that are being repaired. And then there's a outdoor covered walkway where there's some dry rot and metal roofing is actually being repaired as well. Are there any questions?
All right, any questions from the board?
What was the next closest bid?
I think the next closest bid was about $100,000 higher.
716,616,000, and the
Right.
highest bid was $1,000,001.
It was $1,000,001, correct?
I wasn't looking for back and forth, I just wanted to know the next highest bid. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for the staff? Because we're gonna look for an approval to get the building painted.
Move approval.
Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, and we're just all those in favor?
I,
All those opposed? Any abstentions? It's a unanimous vote. Congratulations, good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Let's move on to the Walker Creek. I'm sorry, the memorandum of understanding, item number 602.
All right.
Between the Marin County Office of Ed and the Marin Community College District regarding the College of Marin baseball field mitigation project.
Okay, so as discussed in the background information provided in the agenda, MCOE has been working with COM to develop a strategy to address a safety hazard that was created for our students at Grant and staff at Grant Grover School when COM adjusted their baseball field. As we move towards construction of this protective barrier, we have developed an MOU with COM that outlines the responsibilities for cost, construction, and maintenance of the barrier, among other things. As COM acknowledges their responsibility for the creation of the hazard, the terms of the MOU clarify their responsibility for mitigating the hazard, as well as ongoing maintenance. I recommend you approve this MOU between the MCOE and the Marin Community College District regarding the College of Marin baseball field mitigation project.
I have a question.
Okay,
I have a comment for you.
okay, let's hear that, trustee.
I sit on the oversight committee and we just had a discussion about this item. And I was actually really surprised to hear that it's going to cost the College of Marin, if they're taking out of the bond issue, over $1 million. Were you aware of that?
I didn't know where the total bid landed, but that doesn't surprise me based on all of the other things that we're looking at.
Was there ever any injury to any student in connection with this? Basically, it's a screen, it's a netting that's being placed, and they have to put in the poles. I believe they have to put the poles into ground on the MCOE property as opposed to the COM property because of the location of this. Is that your understanding?
Because of that, could you clarify about what you mean by the location of this?
Well, in order to put up the netting for the baseball field to stop the home runs from possibly going into the property owned by MCOE, one of the issues were in connection with the bond was that the actual poles that needed to be put up in order to hook the netting onto had to be planted in the property of MCOE. That raised a question regarding the ability of the bond to be able to pay for something on another property, which is still being, I think, looked into before anything can actually be signed. And so what I was wondering is, are you aware of that fact?
Am I aware of the fact that they may not be able to use bond money to do
No.
this?
Are you aware of the fact that the poles are going to actually be planted on MCOE property versus on COM property?
Yes, that's part of why we've created this MOU.
Okay, and so then you're giving them that sort of what, I guess, an easement or a permission in order to do that?
Well, we're engaging in this MOU that talks about whose responsibility is and our relationship with regard to a mitigation project that is part on our fee or on our grounds, I should say, or on our campus and then also in their campus. So that's the whole point of the MOU.
So my question is so MCOE is paying absolutely nothing and COM is picking up 100% of the cost to put up this barrier?
MCOE is not paying for the construction of the barrier, no. We're paying for construction on Grant Grover that's the result of DSA requirements related to the construction of the barrier, but we're not paying for the construction of the net.
What is the construction that must take place on MCOE property because of this barrier having been placed?
So any project that goes through the Department Division of State Architects requires a certain amount of additional upgrades for ADA upgrades. And so there is a percentage of this project that's going to need to be ADA upgrades. Those upgrades will take place on Grant Grover's campus, and therefore we're going to need to pay for those because that is our campus.
I guess I just don't understand why you would need to do upgrades because somebody's putting up a netting, so baseballs don't go into the MCOE property. What are the upgrades that you need for that? Why does MCOE?
It's not necessarily related to the upgrades that are taking place with the netting. They're related to the fact that we are doing a DSA project. And so therefore, anytime you do a project that is approved by the Division of State Architects, you also need to do a certain percentage of
The cost of the project.
in
In ADA upgrade.
ADA upgrades. And it's a way that the state architects, I mean, John could talk about this forever, but it's a way that the Division of State Architects ensures that ADA upgrades are ongoing in facilities.
I guess I don't understand why for a netting, but that's okay.
And we can, I have a lot of information, there's a lot of information I can share.
Yeah, I would like to know exactly what those ADA upgrades.
Sure, yeah, I can share that.
Thank you.
And it might not have to do with the netting per se, it might have to do with any project, that is approved by the state. A certain percentage has to go to ADA because the facility that I do my medical business in, it's a 60-year-old building, it's been upgraded a bunch of times, but the bathroom doesn't even fit a wheelchair, right? So we miss that boat in the private sector. So at least the public sector is hanging on and making sure that investment comes with ADA upgrades. I think that's it.
I mean, that's well put, that's well put.
I would just like to see what the figures are and what is being upgraded, because I can't imagine having to say to students without particularly well upgraded ADA requirements. So I'd like to just see that if we get an opportunity.
Sure, yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, we're looking for approval or more questions? Do we have any? Okay, then, is there a second? Do we have more?
Second.
questions? Okay, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Seeing none, unanimously passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, all right, good questions. Okay, let's move on to item 6.03. This is the 26-27 Marin County Office of this LC Local Control and Accountability Plan. Budget overview.
It's a mouthful. Yeah, if they all have, it's the budget overview for parents, it's also the single plan for student achievement. So as you know, we presented the LCAP last meeting. We don't have additional presentation for this, so this is really up for approval. And if there are any questions about the plan.
Are we talking about the budget now?
No, we're talking about the plan
Okay.
that accompanies the budget.
The LCAP and the budget overview for parent.
Yeah, there is a budget overview in the LCAP, but that's just it's sort of a face sheet, if you will, of what's in the plan.
Has there been any change in the plan since the last time it was presented?
Yeah, the only thing that we've changed, we have added the single plan to it, which is typically a standalone document, but the federal funds that necessitate the requirement for the single plan are in the LCAP. So we're just making the LCAP also the single plan.
And how does it compare to the last LCAP in terms of where the increases are and decreases or the lack of funding?
The LCAP in and of itself talks about areas that are where you're seeing differences. It's a 3-year plan, as you know, and it really is looking at year to year, how are we measuring growth? So there are budgetary comments and budgetary notations in there, but the plan really is looking at how is program doing with the budget that they have. So, and I would say that with the exception of one area, that they're just rerouting themselves, and unfortunately Katie's left. And we did talk about this at the last meeting where we're just rerouting some funding for the equity multiplier where they get additional funding for into a different area because it just wasn't productive. The really nice thing about the LCAP, Member McCarthy, is that it is a 3-year plan that's flexible. So you're not locked into it. You're able to start with a 3-year plan and kind of look down the road and anticipate in your educational expertise what you think is going to happen. And if it doesn't, you get to redo it and reroute it. I would say for the most part, 90% of the plan is the same, with the exception of that one goal, and I believe it's maybe goal number 3 that they've tweaked it a little bit to look a little bit different.
And by tweaking it and you're saying redirecting funds, what did you do?
They are not redirecting funds, the funds are the same, they're just buying something different, and unfortunately, I'm not able to tell you what that is in that item. Lisa, do you know what, Dr. Lyne, do you know what they did with their equity multiplier funds?
Yes, so the equity, the equity multiplier funds have allowed us to support additional staffing, additional support staffing. I know in one of the pictures up there, it showed parent empowerment specialist as well as student CATS position who really focuses on expansive field trip opportunities and other opportunities for students that expose them to more career opportunities than maybe what they might get without that level of intervention.
This wouldn't have anything to do with what happened at Tamalpais Union High School District and getting increased support for minority students, would it?
No, it has nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with TAMS.
Okay, any further questions? Okay, seeing none, we need a motion.
I move.
Is there a second?
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
I.
All those opposed? Any abstaining? Seeing none, unanimously passes. Thank you so much for all that work.
Not at all, and again, it's kind of a complicated document, and I'd be happy to sit down and walk through it if needed.
Okay. All right, and now 6.04, this is the 26-27 Marin County Office of Ed budget for refuge collection, Assistant Superintendent Bree Brown.
No changes from last meeting, this item remains untouched.
Okay, and so we need a motion for approval for the garden part of the budget.
I move
All right, and do we have a second?
A second.
And is this a roll call vote for the budget or not?
No, not necessarily.
Okay, then all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
I abstain.
Okay, so one abstention passes. All right, thank you so much. Yes, did you have a question, Meredith?
Yes, did we learn recently that we had a conversation about extensions? And I thought our conversation ended up with an understanding that we shouldn't abstain unless we had a conflict. Is that correct?
That's right. Your board bylaw, member Nemser, prohibits members from abstaining from a vote unless they have a conflict of interest.
And what happens if they abstain anyway?
Then you are in violation of the bylaws that were voted on and approved by this board.
And then what?
Well, that's a really good question. And then it's up to the board to decide whether or how they hold members accountable who violate their bylaws.
Yeah, maybe.
I've never heard of a bylaw like that before in my life. Can you tell me where there are other bylaws districts have?
Well, I don't think that's part of the agenda right now.
Right,
so-
well, the only thing I can do is say that I abstain, because if I can't get any information about it, I'm just gonna say that I don't believe that that's appropriate.
Yeah.
Maybe we
And I'm
can
gonna
revisit
object
That's what
and-
we're having.
President Robinson, that was in your bylaw.
I know it was.
Yeah.
I know we all approved it.
I didn't approve it.
I don't know what your vote was on that specific bylaw.
I'm just saying that I'm going to, my vote is gonna be an abstention, because I object to the fact that this bylaw exists. So everybody can do whatever they wanna do about it, but I think that it is an improper bylaw. I've never seen one like this before, ever, and I think it's wrong. So I will object to it and maybe do something about whether or not I can follow up and get it somehow or another removed. But I've just never seen anything like this in 50 years of practicing law and being on many public boards. So I'm objecting to this, and I'm gonna continue to have an abstention.
Okay, well,
That's how my vote should be recorded, and do what you will with it, and depending on what you do, then I will follow up and do whatever it is I need to do about that.
that sounds fine. Okay, moving right along. Said your piece. Okay, well, now let's get to the meat of the budget. Whole budget, Bree Brown.
Thank you. I do believe we have a presentation. So, the presentation is basically what I'm doing is I'm just updating you from what's changed, last time when we met on the 9th, what's changed today. In the board documents, you'll see the changes from last time to today. In the budget memo specifically are highlighted in blue. I will let you know that there were some documents that went out on Thursday that have been updated. So please make sure that you're using the most current documents that are on the website and that are in your binders. But the highlights that I'm gonna go through today, if we could, sorry. There we go. Anything that's changed from the recommended budget and now the final budget is in blue. So I just wanna highlight a couple of things because there's two main changes from the recommended budget. And the first one is that we had an unexpected HVAC issue the day after, on the 10th, the day after our original budget was presented as recommended. Based on our current estimates, we're estimating that at close to a little over $4 million is what that project is gonna cost. And so that is the one big significant difference from the recommended budget into this budget. We also included things in this budget that we include are in this final packet that we include on an annual basis, which is your question and answers. So any questions that were asked of the board or any questions that were asked by board members, there is a document. And so just so you know, there's a specific tab in the binder that you can go to. The budget memo is updated. You can see changes in blue and your Q&A is in here with many questions, including a detailed description from Assistant Superintendent Jennings about the HVAC issue. So, but if you have additional questions about the HVAC, we would be happy to answer that. The one thing I'd like to highlight in this budget that is changed from recommended is that we this time around incorporated reports from our new financial system, which I see as is very exciting for us because we've been working on this financial system transition. And so when we get down to the individual departmental budgets, you can see that there are the new reports from the new financial system. And there was a question to me placed about the individual department budgets, and those are noted by the colored paper. So every single department does have their individual budget placed into this binder. There's no change to that. There's absolutely no change with the exception of the HVAC to the numbers that were presented and recommended to now. But just so you know, just to navigate the binder, these blue pages include a narration on what those departments do, and then it's followed by that particular department budget so that you can.
Okay, are we ready for questions?
Yes.
Okay, trustees.
If we don't have a binder,
Oh, then I will hand you this one. Thank you. There's an extra one over here. Oh, okay. Free.
Marilyn's down, Marilyn's high. Marilyn's next to you.
Thank you, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, I know. I took hers.
I have a question.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, trustee McCarthy, you have a question?
When we spoke earlier, I had asked a number of questions about why, well, what the HVAC system upgrade was going to include, and you indicated that it required almost complete rewiring of the building. Is that accurate?
That is, again, we haven't done any formal anything on this because it's happened so recently. So that was just a preliminary from our consultants that gave us some information about what the HVAC system might need for the complete replacement and then what the electrical capacity would be for that. Again, that for a little over $4 million is just their very rough estimate. We're going to have to hire people to come in and do a full analysis on that. And then we will be putting out formal RFPs to get that exact information that we're hoping to come in under that amount. That amount was just the initial, their initial estimate, that because we asked for that, knowing that it was budget time, and that we basically had just a few days to turn around a number. So our hope is that it doesn't hit that high number, but that is where they were at the moment, approximately $2.5 million for the HVAC system replacement, and then a little over 1.5 for potential electrical upgrades in order to sustain the new HVAC.
I could have asked this in two parts, the question, and got to the question that really led me to the question that I asked you. And that is my concern about the lack of any type of planning that would have resulted in huge savings by having upgrades to the building, not just with respect to the HVAC, but other aspects of now what you've proposed in the budget for expenditures for sort of getting the buildings back up to speed. And I'd like to know when there was last an evaluation of what the situation was with the electrical system in the building to determine whether or not earlier repairs and timely repairs, as is the case with most organizations, including HOAs and most school districts, certainly with bond issues, that there was seemed to be no planning that I asked for previously. And I'd like to know what you know about that, and what you can tell us.
Well,
Is it possible for me to just make a comment?
Hold on a second, we just have a question from the trustee. So Bree, can you answer that, please?
We did actually have an analysis done 3 years ago, and that's part of what Assistant Superintendent Jennings included in his answer in the Q&A section. And that did say that there was some issues coming up with the HVAC system. They had given us kind of like you will need to replace this within this time frame. That clearly what has recently happened was sooner than we expected. However, we did have that evaluation done. And so that was something that was on our radar of, hey, soon we will need to be looking at replacing them.
I was talking about the electrical system upgrade because that's independent of the HVAC system. That, from what I understand, is going to be a significant overhaul. And I'd like to know if you've had that particular segment, the $1.4 and $1.5 million segment, reviewed at an earlier time for upgrades as opposed to having to face them all now.
If Adam has an answer, I'd let him. Otherwise, I'd say I'd need to look into that because I am not 100% privy to what that study 3 years ago fully contained.
That also identified that this would be something that we would need to be working on the next 5 years. And had a $1.5 million price tag to it, potential price tag to it, and that's where I just had that number.
And was there any work ever done on upgrading the electrical system?
Yeah, we did. Over the summer, we invested, I don't know the number off the top of my head, but we had the switchgear clean. It was put in the 70s, early 70s, and so we had it evaluated and cleaned. And the analysis was that it looks pretty, I mean, in terms, looks pretty good for 50-year-old switchgear, and has some aging and corrosion that's natural for switchgear that's that old. The concern that we have is that when we upgrade, one of the potential problems is whether or not we need to upgrade our electrical system in order to run newer VRF HVAC units, which are these units that we have are the first generation. They're almost 20 years old, and if we put in newer, and we're already having issues now, if we're putting in newer systems, are we going to be able to use will our electrical system be able to handle this? And so that's part of this evaluation that we've done.
It's kind of an ongoing thing. When you buy a new phone, your cord doesn't work for it. It just happens. You got buy a new cord too. So, any other questions for the staff?
I kind of had a comment, which is certain things which were not done in the past is over and done with. And I think we really need to start up at this point to assess how much money do we have, what are the things that really needs to be done so that our properties are up to standard, and how long is that going to take. And I think the board needs to know, and I think it has been communicated before as well, that you're actually doing that, you're reviewing that, because we recognize that it has to be done. Maybe it cannot be done right now, it would have to be on a staggered basis, but you're not just not thinking about it, you're actually planning for it. And in your planning, you're taking into account how much money we have, how much money we would need, how much money is needed to be in reserve so that we remain a healthy organization, and what is the timeline for that? I think there will always be a question of how come this wasn't done before or whatever. It doesn't matter, because what needs to be done is what needs to be done right now.
I have a comment. in response to that
Okay,
comment.
and anyone else before trustee McCarthy weighs in? Okay, yes, Cindy, just to give everyone a time.
I just wanted to acknowledge that Bree has been very generous with her time in holding office hours to help especially newer board members, at least for me, really understand this budget. I know on top of everything that's been going on, it was a lot, but it really helped me feel much more informed. So thank you.
Okay, and now trustee McCarthy, go right ahead.
I believe that if you don't look carefully at the past, you're going to commit yourself to making the same errors in the future. I have sat on many different boards in this county and on HOA boards, and I can tell you that I've never seen a situation like this where you don't have at least a 5, 10, and 15-year plan. And I'm very concerned that even as we spoke about, that the cost of doing these projects now is higher than what it would have been if these things had been addressed and managed in the budgets and in the planning in 2018, 2017, 2016. And that is what concerns me. And if we do not have a very clear understanding what that cost is and what it has cost the district, what it has cost the County Board of Education by increased costs, is going to be a problem. And I don't want to see that happen again. And that may having to be require acknowledging the fact that it wasn't done when it should have been done. When districts are doing this, everybody is doing this. Any organization is doing this. And I believe that that was a serious shortcoming. We need to look at it, we need to evaluate it, and we need to make sure that going forward, that doesn't happen again. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's.
I would like to assure you that all of our efforts right now are going into, and I appreciate Assistant Superintendent Jennings for working with me. We have been working on a long-term plan, and that is where all of our efforts are going right now, is making sure that we have a sustainable plan, proactive plan, and a plan that continues for multiple years beyond MYP that's included in this budget.
I think that's a great idea, but I would just say that having been on this board for many years, I would sure love to see a list from Greystone West or even our office on how many projects we have done over the last 25 years. It has been tremendous. I mean, from the dining hall to digging the well, to doing the whole part of Walker Creek that was unlivable before, to this whole room, that the roof here was flat and like 10 feet high. I mean, we lifted the whole thing up, we put the windows here. I mean, there's been a whole gut of this office several times almost. So there have been a lot, and maybe some of the trustees need to actually see all the work that has been done. But I do love the plan. I do love the idea of a greater plan. Yes, trustee.
Projects are not plans. Projects are things you do generally when it's a necessity. No organization that I know of, that I have been part of, and there have been many of them, particularly schools, do not have long-range plans that would have required some of the repairs that are talking about here, whether it's roofs, whether it's floors, whether it's electrical systems, should not and could not have been done timely, earlier, and for less money. I've never seen an organization without that kind of a long-term plan. So I think it is a shortcoming. And so projects don't indicate a lack of plans, dealing with some of the issues that we're talking about now, which this year is going to cost $10 million between the HVAC and the other plans that have to be done, things that have to be done to catch up. It's $10 million this year alone.
Any other comments?
I have a comment.
Yes.
And I think if there is no plan that's gonna be done right now, we look 5 years from now and say, oh, we didn't do it, and now it's gonna cost us this much. At least we're at the starting point. We're saying that it's gonna cost this much. We're looking at everything. And then we can look back in 5 years or 3 years or whatever number of years depreciation table and say, we did something. And we're not repeating whatever problems there may have been in the past caused by whatever lack of planning.
Anything else? All right, wonderful. Now we need a motion.
Yes, I move we approve the budget.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I do not support this budget.
Okay, well then, hold on, we're voting. All those who do not support the budget, say nay.
I do not support this budget.
Okay, any abstentions? The budget passes. Thank you so much, Bree. Okay, moving right along. So now we have item number 606, resolution number 1094, education protection account. This is a roll call vote.
It is a roll call vote. This is an annual thing the state requests that basically says, how are you spending your EPA funds? And we spend our EPA funds 100% on function 1000, which is instruction.
All right, so any questions for Bree? Okay, is there a motion?
I'll move to approve the resolution 1094 education protection account.
I second,
Okay, all those, roll call vote.
Vito Pan,
yes.
Betty Garbarino, Cindy Johansson.
Yes.
Nancy McCarthy.
I'm not participating in the vote.
Does that mean abstention or no?
Figure it out.
It could be a yes or no answer. I'm sorry.
Participation isn't part of the vote. Is it a yes or no or abstention?
I've given you my answer.
Okay, keep, there's just a non-vote. It's an empty blank.
Yes.
Curtis Robinson.
Yes.
Joe Sarcone.
Yes.
Okay, then the resolution is unanimous, sure, but it passes.
It carries.
Okay, so now let's move on to 607. And that's the Marin County Office of Ed annual report on Prop 28, the arts and music in schools.
So again, this is just an annual report required by the state, and as you can see, the MCS and special education programs have provided us information that is within the report contained, and we have spent our dollars wonderfully.
Okay, wonderful. Any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
So I see that the number of full-time equivalent teachers is 0.1, and the number of students being served is 240. How does that body treat
The bulk of the funds were spent on contracts and contractors and items. We did align that one, it was actually 0.05, but rounded up to. But we did have a 0.05 person doing a couple of items for students, but the bulk was spent on contractors.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move we accept the proposition 20 annual report.
Okay, is there a
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all those opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimously passes. Thank you very much, board. Item number 608, that's the second reader for board policy 9626. That's the inter-district attendance appeals. Deputy Superintendent Jonathan Lance.
Yes, thank you. So this is second reading of the board policy 9626, which is a update to your interdistrict attendance appeals policy. There has been no changes since the first reading, and the recommendation is to approve as presented. And if approved, we could put it into place hopefully next week.
Wonderful. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move approval.
I second.
All right, any further discussion? Any further discussion?
I have a question. What was the update based on changes in the law? Describe generally what the basis was pretty significant red lines, and I apologize, I was not at the last meeting.
Yeah, I mean, really the basis was it hadn't been updated since I think 1995. There was no substantial changes with code. It was just really more for implementation and really for transparency for parents and districts so they would know exactly what the process was. Most importantly, the board's criteria for saying yes or no to appeal did not change at all.
Good question. Any other questions or discussion?
I have a question.
Okay, the motion's on the table. It's been seconded.
There been any significant increase in the request for interdistrict transfers?
In the last 5 years now, I've not seen that. It's about average. We're doing about 7 a year, roughly.
I think I read something recently about, are they going to be giving an advantage? Is it some district? Is it here? That they're gonna give an advantage to a person who's teaching at the school in interdistrict transfers and bringing their children?
That was a local district that made a decision and a change to their policy, but that did not impact this
That's what
policy.
Sandra found?
It was, yes.
Thank you.
And they have the right to do that. They can do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Alrighty then, so. Any further discussion? We have a second, so we're gonna call it to a vote. Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, unanimous once again. Thank you, board. Now we have item number 6.09. That's the second amendment to the memorandum of understanding between Green County Office of Ed and the Ross Valley Charter School.
This was actually brought to you on the 9th, and there was a technical omission in the preamble where the superintendent of schools was listed as a signatory, but he wasn't listed as a party. And so this is just a technical correction. The Ross Valley Charter has already accepted this MOU, but we need to bring it back to you to fix that technical error.
So initially, I was the only one that had the signature on there. Is that the deal?
Everyone had the proper signatures. It was just up at the top in the preamble. There was a typo.
Oh, yeah, I see. Okay. All right, just amending,
Move approval.
right. Is there a second?
A second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstentions? Seeing none, unanimously passes. Thank you very much for that. Now we have the Marin County Board of Education reports. We were just here a few weeks ago. Any reports or updates over the last 2 weeks? Did you want to say something?
I have a report.
Oh, you do? Well, then
I
speak
do.
freely.
Yes, the executive committee of the MCSBA is gonna be meeting next Tuesday, August 18th. And one of the things we'll be talking about is your invitation to attend our big new school year meeting and gathering. And it's gonna be Thursday, August 27th. So that needs to be on your calendar, Thursday, August 27th from 8 to 10 in the morning at MCOA. So it will be, I'm sure there will be breakfast food there. And this is actually the first of a 3-part professional learning series that will focus on special education. So it's actually a learning workshop from 8 to 10. And it's for all the trustees and superintendents in the district.
And I have a question. I have a question.
Yes.
Who is going to present in these, it's about the special education program, are you talking about the law, you're talking about the requirement, and Torah?
It's actually gonna take on many forms. It's gonna take, it's sort of a soup to nuts look at special education.
So it will start with the legislation that requires schools.
Not necessarily start with legislation. No.
Well, is
We
it-
haven't worked out all of the agendas yet, but it will definitely cover that.
Is it gonna talk about IEPs, 504 hearings and those types of things? Or is it more just going to be what we're doing here? What we're doing with MCO?
No, it's just a district wide, it's for a district look at it, and what is special education? What is it in general? What does it mean for a trustee? What are the laws around it? I don't know how deep we're gonna go on it in a 3-part series, but there will be work on that list.
Okay, all 3 parts are going to be here at this location.
At this point. Once we have
Can someone send us calendar?
We totally will, yeah, it's not been.
August 27th.
Actually, Laura, are we gonna be videotaping that?
I don't know that we firmed that up. We certainly
Okay,
could.
we did talk, MCSBA, well, we did talk at one time about recording the workshops that we have, because I come back and report and say, oh, it was so great, but it's so easy to do it and put it online. And we did talk about doing that more, and I don't know if we've been following up as much as we wanted.
We can't always do that, it's proprietary at some level.
Okay.
Not everybody wants to videotape.
Oh, that's true.
Intellectual property and.
Right,
But to the
okay,
extent
we could
possible.
just remember it, well, we can talk about it,
For sure.
Okay. Thank you. Any other questions on that or any other board reports that were mentioned 2 weeks ago? All right, seeing none, let's adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.